So you and I have both been at our respective schools for over 20 years. Can you talk about maybe the pros and cons of being in one place for a long time?
Pros, comfort, kind of immunity. I'm so old that they don't want to fire me, so it's like immunity. But winning has to keep, just I guess the comforts of knowing my system and how it works and so forth. I think, quite honestly, sometimes being at a place so long, you get taken for granted. And not that I feel that way all the time, but the expectation now is if you don't get to the World Series and play for a championship, what's wrong? What happened? And it's so hard to live in that world, as you know. But for some weird reason, I love that challenge.
So what is the biggest challenge you think for sustaining success? Because you've done that so well.
Yeah, I think changing with the times has been really important to me. And the What Drives Winning book and Brett has really changed my world in the way of connecting to this generation. And I had the team, in one of the exercises in the book, it says for the team to write a letter to your sport. Write a letter to softball, like softball is your friend. And I asked some of them if they wouldn't mind giving me the letter so I could read. I want to know what they're feeling. And man, did that hit me hard. Reading their letters was like a sad love story. It was really weird and uncomfortable. Like, why don't you like what you're doing? And well, you know, I love you, softball. You've taken me many places, but you've hurt my relationship with my parents. You don't allow me to have friends. You know, and I'm reading that and I'm going, I want to make this letter, help this letter turn more into a love story again. And so reading those letters really resonated with me. I'm going to find out what these problems are, and I'm going to help you love this sport again. And that's what I've really put a lot of emphasis in, is the connection with them. And so at the end of the season, if they were to write the letter again, I think it would sound a little bit different, especially when you're raising the trophy. But it's not about that. It's about the deep hurt that they have, and I want to try to help them face that, get out of that comfort zone and into the courage zone, which means face some things you really don't want to talk about.
So talking about that love, do you ever find it to be a challenge as a female coach to balance that toughness that they need for never letting them get away with anything but their best, and that love and the relationships that they need?
It does, but at the same time, I mean, I've found out what this generation is like, and I've embraced that. But I have to maintain, I think of myself as a parent, and I have to discipline. And I think any young female that comes to our university or into our program, or even yours, they love discipline, and they'll say no, they don't, but they do. They need it. They want it. They like structure. They like organization. That's safe. That's comfort for them. So it's important for me to deliver those things. I have this on. This is our wristbands that say championship mindset, and that's the world and the environment that we try to live in. And we aren't living in that environment early in the season. I had these in my briefcase since January, and I didn't give these to them until April. And they could not stand that. They wanted these, and they'd have a good game, and they're like, they'd start chanting, bracelets, bracelets. I'm like, no, not good enough, not good enough. And it's hard because you want them to have it, but I would not give it to them till the right time. In the fall, we wear black cleats in our fall season, and it's sort of a rite of passage. In the spring, you wear your white cleats. White are fast, they're clean, they're sharp, we've earned them. And I took away their white cleats in mid-February or late February and put them in their black cleats, and you would have thought that their world was crumbling because they're playing in black cleats now, and I had their white cleats all piled right in the middle of our locker room. And they had to look at them every day, and they wanted those cleats, and I wouldn't give them until we started figuring out how to live in the championship mindset world again, playing fearless, playing together, all of those good things. So you got to take away sometimes to make them want it a little bit more, and I stood my ground, and as a parent, that's what I would have done.
So my last question, you've obviously had this legacy of a championship mindset at Oklahoma. And I heard a story that was about your team in the championship series where you had every player pick up a rock, and you kind of used a David versus Goliath story. And what you asked them to do was throw the rock. Before this game ends, throw the rock. In other words, do something to help us win and not leave it out there.
Right.
So with the platform you have as one of the most successful female coaches of this era, what rock do you feel like maybe you've already thrown or that you'd like to throw with your platform?
What I am continuing to, I guess, what we do at Oklahoma, we feel very blessed. We feel like God's given us a platform, and the players, myself, are trying to use it in that way. But I also have a passion for what women have done for me in the pioneers that have created better salaries, better facilities. Pat Summitt is a huge role model for me. And I've never met her, and I wish I could have or would have, but what she did for women's athletics didn't just stay in basketball. It trickled all over women's athletics to me as well. And my goal is to take that torch and continue to fight for equal pay, not maybe necessarily just for women, but for our sport, for facilities, for respect, for everything that goes with that. If I'm standing in front of my players and telling them to stand up for what's right and stand up for themselves, I would be a hypocrite if I'm not doing the same. So I want to be a leader in that way of continuing to push not only our sport, but women's athletics to a place that Pat Summitt would be doing right now if she was with us.
Well, Patty, I just want to say thanks for me personally. You've definitely been someone I've looked towards, and for all of us out here for leading the way and being one of those pioneers. Let's give it up for Patty.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great job.